work with other council, the other chairs to put the police headquarters update on?
Yeah, I'll work with MSP Chair Bishop and we'll put something together. And Tilly and I did put an agenda together for through the spring break. So we had some specific things we were trying to accomplish, but I'll talk to Chairman Bishop and we'll get a date that works for both of us. Is there a timeline that you need this information by?
Not necessarily. I just think that the more we can inform the council, the better. And just because there is a Darnell and Spronz and Company did release finally the kind of like the construction schedule, and it's pretty detailed. I just want to get that to as many people as possible as soon as possible. And if it needs to be held off calendar, or you need me to do it in finance as a joint finance committee with all the different committee chairs, I can do that as well.
Well, I know Councilman Bishop just joined us. I'd prefer that me and him just do a joint one because this one is clog up the finance committee meeting or try to rush through it. So I'll work with, I apologize, I'm having a horrible connection right now, but I'll work with Councilman Bishop to get this done.
All right, we got to move you into old Brooklyn and get you some good Wi-Fi.
Hey, we need to get a system up the way you got it going too.
Exactly.
So you need to give us your formula. I know we talked about it, and then hopefully we can duplicate that. But on the issue, Mr. Chairman, on this issue, is it a lot of information that we have to go through?
I'm sorry?
Is it a lot of information on this piece that
it's
Spronz has?
Detailed. It's detailed, and it would be something that I think that we should make sure that the council members have the full, full scales, full scope and scale of what this project looks like. It's a big one.
Yeah, I agree. Do you know when we could get the information on it so we'll have it ahead of time before the?
If you were what Councilman Chairman Bishop Griffin said is he's going to work with Councilman Bishop to come up with a time, and then we'll do it from there.
I see.
So let's keep. So let's just kind of keep moving, and I'm just going to kind of keep going in the order that I see people on my screen. Councilman Kerry McCormick, what do we have upcoming in health that we should keep our eyes on? How is the hearings going with the vaccination schedule?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Going really well. We've been able to not only cover the local vaccination through our recreation center and Department of Public Health. We've also highlighted the mass vaccination center, as well as a lot of different aspects of the vaccination, from the efficacy, having the chief medical officer of the Department of Public Health on, to bringing in our FQHCs, along with a line of other guests that we've had to really dig into how the vaccination is working in our community. Some really important questions have been brought up around access, language, cultural access as well. And so we've been able to follow up on a lot of those questions. So the hearings are going very well. We will continue them as the vaccine distribution continues to roll out. But overall, Mr. Chair, the feedback that we've gotten is overwhelmingly positive, both from the rec centers as well as the mass vaccination site of folks getting vaccinated. Another important piece is the city is working with Case Western to crunch a lot of the data and to publicize it, which I think will be very helpful in informing council and the city administration on what this looks like so far when it comes to discrepancy standpoint, and what areas we need to continue to target. So overall, I think the hearings is going well. We also, Mr. Chair, we've been focusing purely on the vaccine and COVID for obvious reasons, but we've also last week held a hearing on the environmental division of environment at the city, especially the code enforcement unit. Had a long hearing on that, and they have committed to establish a system to better communicate and receive complaints and issues from council members, and then to follow up with council members when those issues are had. I will say I'm also meeting with a couple judges around the follow-up of those complaints in the next couple of weeks to better understand the judicial process. So moving forward, Mr. Chair, we are going to also hold hearings. Our next non-COVID themed hearing most likely will be an update on lead paint and the ordinance that is associated with that. So look out for more information coming on that.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. Going around the horn, Councilman Brian Casey. Any agenda items we should be aware of in utilities?
Just the increase for water. And I know you asked last month about the 6-month moratorium after it's passed. That would not be included. So if we hear it and it passes, it goes into effect as soon as the mayor signs it, because it was introduced in 2019. So just working with that. And that's about all we have for utilities for right now. But I did have a question for Councilman McCormick or anybody regarding the health and the vaccination. If somebody calls the 2222 number and they get can they get an appointment at the Wolstein Center for the mass vaccination if they're not a Cleveland resident? Or is the 2222 number specifically for just Cleveland residents?
It was created specifically to serve Cleveland residents, but if a non-Cleveland resident, so I would say for non-Cleveland residents, we should push them all to the Ohio Department of Public Health's hotline. And so that would be the recommendation. But if a non-Cleveland resident calls 2222, they should be referred to figuring, whether they can create an appointment or referred over to ODH. But I'll check to make sure that's happening.
Okay, I appreciate that. And that's it for utilities, Mr. President.
Okay. Thank you. Looking forward to that. And Brian, Councilman Casey, just is that's 0003? Is that the schedule tentatively?
Yeah, but I don't know how that's going to work out. It was introduced in 2019, so the increase was for 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23, I think. So I don't know how that falls into now because the 00 was 19 and 20. And then it's an increase going forward. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out.
We can spend some time unpacking that, but yeah, that'll be the big one on the horizon.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Councilman Bricatelli, what's on your agenda for the rest of the near-term session?
We have all kinds of fun stuff, but mostly the CDC ratings and evaluations are being completed. Joe Tytron had been working with the administration getting those done. There's a serious, the big issue right now is dealing with the backlog of contracts that need to get done, including our, all versions of contracts, whether it's for casino funds or CDBG dollars, or any of the small contracts. There's a big backlog, and working with the director to try and figure out ways that we can get by this. John James has been trying to figure out how to get the different departments to spend a little more time on this, and we've allocated dollars, and some of these contracts are over a year old, and they're not even done yet. So that's getting to be a bigger and bigger issue. And then as we're getting closer to getting the contracts done, then we're finding out some of the stuff is not eligible. So it's just been really confusing. And then also, I'm sure some of you may have heard from your local CDC directors that community development has been disallowing some of their reimbursements. That's gotten to be a problem as well, because for someone not to get the reimbursements on their monthly basis that they're expecting really is a huge impact to their cash flow. So we're going to continue to work on trying to resolve that. The director is going to setting up a meeting with me to talk with him and Joy Anderson, and I have asked Colleen Gilson from CMP to help step in on this as well, just because it's she's been hearing it as also. So so those are some of the touch points. I've been keeping folks abreast on things like the paint program, just because it's gotten extended now for the second time. That also has been a bit of a hiccup. They can't seem to provide us with the appropriate lists of who's actually been approved and who's pending and who's turned an application in. So that's a bit of a cluster right now. They're hiring a new manager, which they were hiring before the CDBG hearing started, but they still haven't brought somebody on board yet. So there's a little bit of a hiccup there. So, you know, all is bad. I mean, all is good. We're trying to get through some of this.
Is that because of the change in leadership in the department, or is there something else going on? Are these new requirements from HUD? Like, if you had to like try to diagnose where the problem is from, because I thought things were getting better.
So we do have the ongoing issue of, you know, when somebody steps up from assistant director or some other position to take either acting or interim, that means they're doing two jobs. And so Director Wackers was the compliance guy when he was brought in by Mike Cosgrove years ago, and was doing a great job in automating that system. So now I don't know whether it's just a matter of not enough staff down there, or that they're really scrutinizing at a much greater level. You know, we've seen this coming on how the automated reimbursements work. But it seems like because they're automated reimbursements, you know, calculations, it seems like the directors at the CDCs would know what they're filling out and not anticipating getting cut. So that's where we have to try and figure out, you know, what's the disconnect between what they're turning in and what our community development is accepting. And some of this is, you know, these are moving targets for the year. It's not like, yeah, well, this month, absolutely somebody opened up this business. Well, no, this month somebody starts working on the business. Next month they start working on financing. The third month they're working on construction. I mean, it's a moving target. And for them to say, well, we're only reimbursing you for this a one-time touch, that's where it's gotten to be more complicated. So it really is an interpretation of what HUD is imposing on us versus, you know, us not having a cumulative look and only a month-to-month look, which has made that more difficult.
Okay. Blaine, do you have a question on that?
Not on that. Another topic
Related to
for Councilman Brancatelli.
Okay.
Yeah, DPS. I'm just going to ask, but I'll wait until you wrap that up. And I just had a question that I just received something.
Okay. Councilman McCormick, did you have a question on this topic?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank Councilman Brancatelli for looking into this. All of my CDCs have called me and they're being impacted by this. And again, I just want to thank him for digging into this, because we were told before or during CDBG budgets by the mayor's administration that we raised the concerns around some of these new standards, and they said, well, they're more recommendations, and you know, we're going to support the CDCs, and now we're seeing the problem. So I think, Tony, Councilman Brancatelli, this is the issue that we raised, and now we're seeing it come to fruition. So I just want to support Councilman Brancatelli in looking into this in any way I can help, because my CDCs are getting hit right now with this. And I'm sure others in the city are as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Councilman Joe Jones on CD community development, economic development.
Well, I think, you know, my colleague McCormick did such a good job. It was almost as if he just said it in such a great way. I on your home. Thumbs up on that. We're having the same scenario. I guess my question would be, how do we get the flow coming back? I mean, what's causing the issue? Do we know?
Yeah, that's what I asked him, but why don't you summarize real quick again, Councilman?
Yeah, so part of the issue gets to be what's allowable and what's not allowable in terms of reimbursements. And then on the contracting side, it's also, you know, it is somewhat COVID related because of folks who are working remotely and can't do contracting remotely. So that's where the difficulty comes in, because it's, you know, John James spends a lot of time chasing somebody down at City Hall that's not there, and trying to work remotely has made it even more complicated.
And I don't know what we could do, Mr. President, because, you know, when I said at the budget hearings, one of my thought processes initially on, which was I didn't know if we had enough staff people when I got on in 2018. But after hearing the number of employees, we should not be having some of these kinds of issues. I don't know what it is. So if we could get down to handling that, that would help us on a number of fronts. So with that being said, I'll just wait, and I appreciate your leadership, Mr. Chairman. I echo my comments of McCormick on this issue.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Bishop, do you have a question on DPS?
Yes, about the, thanks, Mr. President, Mr. Councilman Brackatelli, about the paint.
Yes.
To be extended.
Yeah, the paint program's extended again.
Until?
Oh, it's, I think it's through the end of April right now.
Through the end of April? Okay, all right, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm coming back to you, Blaine.
All right, I know Councilman Brackatelli is all over this, and I know you probably been informed on this too, Council President, but the Sixth District Circuit Court ruled against moratoriums, and I'm housing court and asking if the city is going to take it, because if not, they're going to have to open back up the eviction process, which can be devastating at this time in the city. So don't know if you got that information looking at this, and Tully probably is, but I'm being told that we got what action we're going to take either today or tomorrow.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've talked about this at VAPAC.
I'm just asking, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, so we've been talking about this at VAPAC and a number of other of these citywide organizations. And so that's, we're gonna have to play this out and see how this impacts us. It is gonna be a problem when it hits us.
Yeah, and there's also, there's competing instructions from the Supreme Court of Ohio regarding this, and the federal court would likely kind of take precedent over that, but all courts are behind in all of their proceedings. So I don't know, I can't imagine that evictions will get special treatment, but will they no longer get the luxury of being able to have a moratorium over this proceeding? So a lot of stuff to unpack, and I don't know the answer today. Councilman Casey, did you have a comment on this?
Well, just to give you guys a heads up, housing court is really, just to give you a heads up, housing court is about to start probably having to open back up eviction hearings. So that's going to be something we really need to educate our constituents on. And I'm not sure who's running point on the administration for that, but somebody from the administration should be engaged as well. So,
Mr. President, if I could just chime in real quick. The housing court has to be open to, the housing court has to be open to some extent with evictions, because we just had one in Ward 16 Friday where the bailiffs came out and evicted. So to some extent, they're doing evictions. And I don't know, Tony, if you know what that extent is, but I know that they did one Friday up here. So somehow they're in some way they're doing evictions, whether legally or illegally. I don't know. No, it was
Councilman Casey, was it
it was both. It was an eviction and a set out.
They have, just to clarify, they've always been able to do evictions. The moratorium has only been for people who have been able to show that COVID has impacted their ability. And the tenants also have to show that they're making the efforts to either get rent relief or apply for funding. But if there's evictions for cause that are still moving forward.
Okay, so there's not a moratorium on evictions, right? It's just on certain types, or?
Yeah, it's COVID related evictions.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Cleveland?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think also with respect to the federal moratorium, it only applies if there's a FHA or some type of federal mortgage. If there's no mortgage on the property, someone who's paid off their property, then the evictions can't go forward, and housing court is doing evictions. again, nothing in the courts is moving like it normally does because of COVID and because of the backlog. But the CDC moratorium only applies for FHA and I guess Freddie Mac mortgages, to the extent there is one. And somebody would have to provide proof that, it is a FHA mortgage.
Yeah. And I get most homes with mortgages are backed by their Fannie or Freddie in some way. So it does cover a lot, but if the properties are paid for and they're not backed by Fannie or Freddie, then they're not, so the moratorium does not apply to them.
Right.
All right, well, let's keep a close eye on this one. Councilman Jones, do you have a comment before we continue?
Yeah,
Yes, please.
yeah, just really quickly, do we know what, once this moratorium is totally lifted, what our possible impacts would be? Do we have any general idea? We just don't know right now.
I don't know. Does
Yeah, there's, we can probably have some folks come forward from the different advocacy groups and have a little presentation to kind of talk about what kind of numbers we're looking at. Because it's pretty much all over the map on, we're not facing the same kind of displacement we saw during the foreclosure crisis in the early 2000s. But we're still going to see some displacement occurring just because the economy is upside down, especially for the lower wage earners who aren't showing up on the unemployment rolls.
And if we do get some information or feedback, is there anything we really can we do anything about it?
Well, the areas that we can continue to push, and I know the county just put additional dollars in for rent relief. So being able to work with our third parties like Cleveland Housing Network and others to provide rent relief is critically important.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's it.
Thank you. Moving to
if I can, Mr. President, I had a question for Councilman McCormick. I know you mentioned, Councilman, briefly about part of our lead legislation that was passed was to have a hearing. Is that what you're speaking about? That Section 8, the section of that legislation is in 8 that talks about having that updated hearing?
No, I'm just referring to getting an update on the entire conversation around lead. So everything from where we are today, the resource center, dollars in the entire scope.
All right, because there's a real specific language in that legislation before it takes effect that has a public hearing component. So we should, you and I should sit down and figure out, because I had talked to Director Donald about that, because we've not had that briefing yet.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And can I ask
there is a to that point
too?
Just
Councilman Jones, please let Councilman Griffin speak. Councilman Griffin.
Yeah, absolutely.
So real quick, in addition to that presentation, meeting and talking with the Lead Safe Coalition, they would really like to extend an invitation, and I think it would be prudent to, at the right time, and you and me and Councilman McCormick can talk about this, but Sherwin-Williams and other people that have some things that they've presented and that they've offered. And if you talk with the Lead Safe Coalition, they can express that to you, because Sherwin-Williams in some of our conversations have also said that they would like to eventually come to the table and talk about what they would propose.
Great.
So I'll let you guys round table that one, but I think that's something that in addition to that, and that Lead Safe auditor is in place for the update, for the briefing.
Great.
All right, Councilman Jones, do you have anything else on this, or should we move?
No, I don't have anything in particular. I will need your help. I will need your help, and the chairman of the health committee. I just have had not a good. And I don't know why this is. I don't know if it's an issue of personnel and not having inspectors that do the work they need to do. But we're having a lot of problems with the health department, getting our information, reporting it into their system, and just the basics is just not being satisfied at all. And so I would need your assistance in that endeavor.
Yeah, if you could take that offline, I'd appreciate it. Councilman Cleveland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With respect to transportation and particularly the airport, the master plan is in its final stages. There's some, things, the airport is having the conversations it needs to have, particularly with the airlines who will have to approve the master plan as they will be paying for it ultimately. And also, once that's done, of course, there's conversations and the mayor and the administration, will the mayor be briefed on it? And then council will be briefed on it before the master plan is presented to the public. So I'm expecting, from what I've been told, we can probably expect a brief sometime in May. And then it should be released publicly after that. And that's, the biggest thing going with the airport. I had hoped, but it won't happen, before recess, but I still like to get RTA in. We never had the opportunity to have the new director come in and, share her vision with us. And so I still like to do that. And, they've got some new personnel there, including an old friend of ours. So it would be a great opportunity just to meet the director and her new team. And let's talk about the future of public transit. We got some more dollars, fortunately from the state and from COVID relief. So hopefully, we can have some input on how that's going to impact our residents. I know, the RTA had done the fare equity study last year and was looking at making some changes, including some cuts to, some service in the city. And so hopefully, with the new infusion of revenue, they can revisit that issue and, let's look at how we best serve our residents in our region with public transit.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much. Going in order as I see folks, Chairman Kevin Bishop. And before you start, Councilman, I just want to just check in with you on one or two ordinances. Ordinance 19821, that's the rock stuff. Do you want me to refer that back to you? Back to your committee?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I'll refer that back to you. We will not hear that in finance today. And then you held another ordinance this morning as well, where there were some amendments that didn't quite.
Right, 99/2021.
Yeah, so that's held, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I will not look for 198 or 199 in finance today.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So what do you see and what's on your horizon for, through June?
Well, I've reached out to Chief Brown, and I guess he's on vacation at this point in time. So I'm waiting to hear back from him so we can get a presentation on all of the things that he must provide a presentation on us about. I know it's long overweighted. First, I'm going to apologize for my overrun today at the Municipal Services Committee. I didn't know until the last minute that we had went so fast approached the time that we had to do this meeting. So my apologies on that. But yeah, Chief Brown, he finally got back to me after a few attempts. So anyway, he said he would get back and give me a schedule as far as the presentations that he was going to present to council. So I'll kind of communicate that out once I get a clear definition of when that's going to happen. But that's the main thing that I want to do right off the bat is that we just need to have those presentations on quite a few different things: streets, the 3-year plan.
Yeah,
the vocab. Yeah. So those things we're trying to get a hearing on. But other than that, I do want to schedule a couple of field trips for my committee members and for all the council, like at the stadium, at the municipal stadium. But that's what I have in store coming up.
Great. And then before you signed on, if you could work with Chairman Griffin and Brancatelli to just have a hearing on the police headquarters as well.
Okay.
Have a joint hearing on that as well.
Okay. All right, great.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Councilman Anthony Hairston.
Thank you, Mr. President. My connection is a bit poor, so I was just on another call with the cheer study, and the video was kept freezing. So it'd probably be best if I work without the video. As everyone know, that workforce rarely sees any type of legislation. In fact, I spoke with Kimberly, and she indicated there was only one piece that was in the queue that had been in the queue for quite some time. And so I will be scheduling a meeting with Ann Tilly just to talk about some ideas that I have, some thoughts that I received from other members of council about some concerns that they have. One in particular came up today from Councilman Jones regarding minority participation, small business participation across various departments. So that is something we will be looking into to discuss further. As you know, I was not a member of workforce, nor was I a member of operations. So I'm working from a different point than others who may have been elevated, who were members of the committee. But that's fine. That's a good thing. That's a good
learning curve. Yeah.
That's a good thing. So we will also be meeting with some members of the staff along with the president to talk about operations. And Carrie, I will be reaching out to you, seeing that you served as the immediate past president, just to talk about anything that was already in the queue that you all may not have had a chance to get to while you were there.
Happy to do it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
We had a couple things for that, a couple agenda items that we can talk about offline, but yeah, try to get some on the books in the near future.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And as we move along,
then,
we will keep members up to date on where we are in our progress.
Great. Okay. And moving to Councilman Jones on appointments, we need to get a meeting scheduled to get some appointments full as well. I don't know how your calendar is coming up, but I think we got a number of openings where there's going to be suggestions that we get filled.
That's fine. I had an opportunity to talk to Valerie McCall, and she had, whoever her assistant is, was supposed to send some information on the mayor's appointments. So we haven't gotten that yet. It's my understanding that that person is out, and so hopefully they'll be coming back, and then we'll get right back on schedule and hold the sessions. And what I've asked her is that if she could, put it all together, because this committee doesn't meet often. I think once annually we might have appointments or something like that. Right. So what I've asked her, if that's okay with you, Mr. President, was to put it all together, all the names and all the positions, and then we can just do it in one big hit, before the summer gets here.
Sure.
So if that's okay.
Great. All right.
And then I'm open for
please.
suggestions.
Thank you for doing that.
And I'm open for suggestions.
Perfect. Councilman Brancatelli?
I'm sorry, mine will be general after everyone else's.
Okay, I think we're done. So I think right now we'll open up for the good of the order. Councilman Brancatelli?
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick question to the Chairman Casey on the water rate stuff. You had mentioned that legislation we had talked, that's 2019 legislation. Does it make sense to just have that legislation tabled and have them reintroduce new legislation?
It's something that I'm talking to Director Kane about.
Okay. And then for Chairman Bishop, did they ever get us the street lists of all the grading of all of our streets that we had been asking for? You're still on mute.
No, Councilman Brackatelli, they have not.
Okay, that's, the grading would be helpful for all of us to know where our street lists are. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Joe Jones? Unmute.
There's a couple of issues that I'm concerned about. And I don't know where we would be, but I read in the newspaper about how we lost a lawsuit for like $180 million and its impact on Cleveland Public Power. As you know, we're in a very precarious scenario now. So I don't know, how do we go about handling that?
I'll tell you my 2 cents, and Brian, if you could fill in the gaps that I missed. We didn't lose a $180 million case. Basically, it was on paper. It was originally dismissed through a motion for summary judgment, and the appeals court said that there were triable issues. We appealed that to Supreme Court. The Supreme Court thought that there were triable issues. So it's been bumped down to the lower court. Brian, do you know anything else about that we can talk about?
In front of Common Pleas, it's assigned to Judge Deborah Turner over in Common Pleas. And I don't think anything's been set as of yet, but absolutely correct. We did not lose a lawsuit of $188 million. It's just been kicked back down to Common Pleas to be heard.
Right. And Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Casey, I don't know if you know, where are we with, I know that the last time we talked about this issue, we had a director who said he would be a straight shooter, and he's no longer with us. So the issue would be, where are we financially with Cleveland Public Power? What's the outlook? And I know that every time we start asking those questions, they move us down the lane with some other stuff about they have to have all of these studies. So if we have a general assessment about where we are, it would make me feel a little bit better, because a lot of the people who are customers live in my neighborhood. So they're constantly asking me about this. So if I have something that I can have in hand to talk to them about the future of this organization. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, that was me. I did push the mute, so please forgive me. That was me. But if I'm just putting it out there, and we can have a conversation offline, that would be appreciative.
All right, we can have it offline.
Okay. And then the next piece was that there is my understanding that there's a piece making its way through the state legislature now. I want to say it's issue. Let me give it to you, because you might know about where this is at, Mr. President. Let me give you the number. And I've been getting a lot of phone calls on this, and where are we on it as a city? And I told them we would fight it. It's House Bill 22, which I don't know if you've heard about House Bill 22. Have anybody heard about that?
Subject matter is I've got a whole list of House bills I'm watching.
Well, I'm glad you're watching it too. This legislation is one where if you use your camera and you record police officers doing something to someone, it's considered illegal to record a police officer, an official officer making an arrest or dealing with any kind of issues on the street. If you are caught, if this is passed, anyone video recording a police officer making an arrest or doing anything, they would immediately get a felony, and they can be brought up on charges.
Okay, let me take a quick look. If I don't have the answer immediately, I can take it offline, but Steve just sent me a list of all things under consideration in the State House. They're taking this week off as holiday. That particular bill has not had, it's been introduced, but has not had any committee hearings. So it's far from becoming reality just now, but we'll watch, and I'll tell Steve to keep an extra watch, and I'll tell our lobbyists as well.
Right. And then I don't mind, with the, privilege of the presidency, wherever you need me to cut into action, I think this it is shameful that, we have people who have nothing else better to do with their time than take away the rights of American citizens. So I just think that, these kind of pieces, this one and the other ones being offered up in the southern states of Georgia, making it a felony to give someone water or food, in terms of the very fundamental foundation of what our democracy stands on is the vote. To limit that or attack that is, to me, is a hate for our democracy and our government and our way of life. So with that being said, I stand ready to jump in wherever needed to help on any of those issues, especially I do think, Mr. President, they will try to do that here in Ohio. They've done it in every other state with the exception of Ohio. So I do see that coming soon to us.
Thank you, Councilman. I will ask Steve Riss to keep you posted as this develops, if it develops, or if it dies at the end of the year. So is there anything else for the good of the order? I just have a couple housekeeping issues. I have a goal, which is to be back. We're going to go into our summer session as we normally do. I have a goal to be back live in September when we come back after Labor Day into the committee room and into chambers and back to normal business as usual. I've had a brief conversation with the clerk about this. Obviously, there's certain things that would need to happen in terms of our, how we're dealing with the pandemic, but it seems that that's a reasonable time that we should all plan on being back to a semi-normal, operation. And if it appears according to all public health data and, recommendations from our Department of Health and the CDC, if we're able to do our summer meetings live, I would prefer that. I miss you guys, and we wouldn't mind seeing people again. So that's just tentatively, that's a goal. I'm not confirming, but within this leadership team, I want to make sure you know what I'm hoping to get done when I'm hoping to go back. Councilman McCormick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I know last year due to COVID, we had a much different summer. So you're saying though that this summer will track more like a normal summer?
If possible. Right now, my first goal is when we come back after summer in September, for that to be normal. So, but
I'm sorry, normal meaning in the schedule.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And the normal schedule and normal in our, being present physically in the committee room and in chambers when we come back after the summer. If there is good data and good information and good recommendations from the public health community that we can say have our August meeting live, I'd prefer to do that. But for now, we're going to stay on Zoom until we get the all clear from the public health community.
Okay, and then the next question, the follow-up to that is, so committee hearings are broadcasted already, so that's covered. But a lot of folks in the community have gotten used to, whether it be a council meeting or city planning commission, board of zoning appeals, being able to access these public meetings via online and then also after the fact. So has there been conversation both for council meetings, but also for planning and BZA and alt landmarks to keep the technology moving so that they are broadcasted and then available after the fact?
I have not had that conversation, but all of our meetings, all the council stuff, all of our committee meetings, people were already able to go on our website and stream
Right.
live, and those are. As far as the administrative hearings, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Board of Building Standards, I don't know.
It just seems, thank you, Mr. It just seems like we'd be taking a step back if we don't ensure that all these meetings are still broadcasted and available. I mean, I think that's been a really nice thing for people that aren't able to attend them in person or during the time to be able to, what happened to that landmarks committee? Let me pull it up on YouTube. It's been a really helpful tool. So I would just ask that we engage with the administration on that conversation.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Joe Jones.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, do we know when the city of Cleveland will receive the funds from Washington, D.C. COVID relief?
So we have a meeting about that tomorrow, so I don't want to go too far down that topic today. But what I know is that it's 60 days from when President Biden signed it. So it is the first half is going to be, I believe that was, it has to be 21 days ago. I'm not, I lost count. It's coming. The first half is coming, and I will tell you everything I know tomorrow. I'm going to talk to Sharon and find out if there's any new parameters. Right now, the guidance is broad. There's nothing more than what I emailed everybody thus far, but I'm going to talk to Chief Dumas and see if there's been any additional guidance that's been given. But it's 60 days for the first half from President's signature. And I'm hoping that I'm sure we'll get better guidance by the time the money comes, but I kind of shared everything I had in that email and I will update that today.
Right. And then second, will the council be able, I mean, when the money comes in, would it have to go through the legislative branch of government before expenditure?
We'll talk about that tomorrow, but we will have to pass an ordinance just to accept it. So we will need to pass an ordinance to accept it, and we'll need to pass an ordinance approving any expenditure over $50,000.
Okay, great. That's great, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'll wait till tomorrow. That's going to be in the committee of whole?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Okay, well, we're going to adjourn. Thank you all for your participation, hard work, and I will see most of you at 3 o'clock.